coming and coming. If you hand over to government to maintain, the budget the money and share it.
To live in that particular place that the house is. So it's supposed government will be compensate them so that and pay them and relocate them to where they are going and build another house for them.
Careful engineering and management to meet human needs. You can connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube at Property Dr. NG, and on Twitter at Property Doc NG. Cast me not off in the time of old age. Forsake me not when my strength faileth. This Psalm 71 verse 9, and it's talking about old age. We are talking about a special kind of home today. That's the old people's home. So let me give you some tips on what to expect with respect to sheltering the old people. So let me describe the features of the old people's home. We have private rooms, or sometimes you can have a shared room, convalescence, special rooms for those who have mobility issues, hall rooms to have a living room. You can have restaurants in the old people's home. In the old people's home, you can have, in the same environment, you can have a hotel. Now you can provide schools in the old people's home as well. You can also provide a medical care in the old people's home, like a hospital for the aged ones. It's good to have a recreation center in an old people's home where they see nature. You also need the gym area or the games area where they can play their games. The shopping center is also important. You need a library, a religious center. The event center is necessary. You can build an event center in that area. It depends on the size of land you have actually. Having a garden. Today we'll be talking about how to recover after the flood. You see, a lot of people talked about the flood, the occurrence, what happens during the flooding, but we want to talk about how to recover after the flood. The flood has cleared. Now, what can we do? There are so many things we need to look out for. So the first thing I think we should look at is we should not build on flood-prone areas or floodplains. We should have a place where we can direct the flood, excess water into, and proper gully, proper channel to channel the water so they can control it. Because if you don't control it, water will control its own movement. Now that we're talking about the building, what are those things that we need to look out for? We need to look at the structural effects of the building, the electrical, the mechanical, the finishes, the properties inside the building. These are the things we need to look out for. What are those things that are affected during and after the flood? I mentioned the structural effects about the buildings. Now let's talk about the personal effect. If we're looking at the home, we're looking at the furniture, the buildings, internal and external, because most of them were submerged in the flood. And you're looking at the drainage, looking at the outdoor, the drainage system, the cars were submerged, diseases, what happened to the wells, what happened to the water reservoirs, what happened to the gutters, what happened to the soakaway, the septic tanks, for those of them using soakaway and septic tanks. We are looking at outbreak of diseases. These are some of the things that... In the rural areas, people enjoy swimming in the streams, rivers, in the lakes, and so on. In the urban areas, people can swim in the swimming pools, maybe in the sports club, in schools, in hotels, different areas, and so on. And for those who can afford it, they can just build a swimming pool in their homes. There are standards and safety measures to take when constructing the swimming pool. A pool is a structure that is designed to hold water to enable swimming or other leisure activities. So when you have a pool, it can be designed for swimming and you call it a swimming pool. So what are the things we should look out for? The first thing I always talk about is the design. The design should be done in such a way that there is safety in view in all situations. For instance, the tiles that should be used should be anti-slip, the location of the pool, the size of the pool, and maybe a cover on top of the pool when not. When I was preparing for this, I thought about the loss of two beautiful children of our artists, and I was thinking there should have been something maybe to keep these kids away, because I was really touched. But you know, I thought about alarm system and so on. I started doing my research and I found out that yes, it's available. Generally, swimming pools can pose a risk of accidents and drowning, which may be common for swimmers who are inexperienced, or a swimmer who suffers from seizure or while swimming, or someone who has a respiratory problem, or someone maybe who is susceptible to a heart attack. Other accident that can happen is if one dives in a shallow area. The important measure is to place a notice, show a description that this area is a deep end or that area is a shallow end. So diving in a shallow area of a pool may also lead to significant head or even neck injuries. Swimming pool is a major cause of childhood death in some areas where they are not really. Hello everyone, and thanks for being with us on another episode of Property Doctor. If you stumbled on this channel, if you're just pressing, I just stumbled, please wait. Watch, there's something very important you need to know about your buildings. Don't go away. My name is Funmi Amunega Ajayi, also known as your Property Doctor. You can connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube at Property Doctor NG, and on Twitter at Property Doc NG. We talk about buildings and how to manage your buildings properly. So today, let's take a look at LVP flooring. LVP means luxury vinyl plank. It is durable, it's affordable, it's beautiful. It's an alternative to hardwood flooring. LVP is well suited for a variety of residential and commercial applications, and when installed correctly, you'll like it. It mimics the look. Today we want to talk about the reason why your house stinks. Have you ever wondered why when you open the door to your building or to a room in your home and you just feel awful because of what you're perceiving? Stay tuned as we'll be discussing the reasons why your building stinks or your home stinks, and what you can do to eliminate the stench from the building. We'll be giving you simple tips on how to manage that. The reason why your house stinks or your building stinks and how to eliminate the stench can actually start from the design stage. And some habits that we have, well-ventilated buildings may or may not smell. So it's important that during the design stage, you prepare for proper ventilation so that your house does not stink. In a house, we have many items, furniture, clothing, electrical equipment, old and new things, and we keep getting more and getting more and getting more. Now, let's look at those things that can cause your house to stink if you don't take care of them properly. Looking at these few things can help you identify where the stench is coming from. You can leave a comment below if we did not talk about that particular thing about that can make your house stink. First on my list is the furniture. The sofa or the cabinet you just bought might be releasing volatile organic compounds called VOCs for short into the air. Now, the next thing we'll be talking about is mattresses. The next thing I'll be talking about is stale sheets. You shed dead skin cells every night. Dirty carpets. Overcrowding can affect the air in your house. Wet towels can also affect the air in the washing machine can affect the smell of your home. The dishwasher is another place where If your building is really important to you, please stay tuned as we'll be talking about our buildings and household emergencies. How you can manage common household emergencies. These things happen and we don't know what to do. But let's just get some tips from this episode today and see how we can manage household emergencies. What is an emergency? Those things that we need to attend to urgently, usually seriously, unexpectedly, and sometimes very dangerous situations that require urgent actions. These are the emergencies we are talking about. For instance, let's look at electric shock. The next thing I'll be talking about is power outage. Power outage is common here in Nigeria. Let's talk about another thing that is common. That's carbon monoxide buildup. You know, because of the incessant power failure, some people use generators. Another thing we'll be talking about today is gas leak. Sometimes we may find out that the valve in your gas cylinder is worn out and can cause a leak. Let's talk about another emergency that can occur in the home. That's kitchen fire. We have different means of cooking or generating heat for cooking in the kitchen. We use open flames from gas cookers. If you are the type of person that is interested in buying a property but you don't have so much money, I'll give you a tip on what to do. You know, you can actually get a vandalized building and repair it and enjoy it. Vandalism is an action involving deliberate destruction of properties or damage to public or private properties. The price of a vandalized property is quite cheaper. And if you know some techniques, it will help you fix the house at a cheaper price and you get a good value for it. There are some things that you can do. Before the purchase of the property, you need to estimate the risk and you need professionals to help you inspect, especially the structural work, and generally check everything. Then you need a quantity survey. Today we'll be talking about wall maintenance. You know, wall maintenance begins with you. You see, taking care of our buildings actually starts from the design stage, when buildings are being planned, designed, and produced. Today we are looking at taking care of the wall, no matter the material that has been used to build the wall. People should learn not to touch the walls. This is not just for the sake of the walls. You know, people actually spit on their walls, especially in the restrooms, on the stairway, and so many other places. Some people get so angry and they kick the walls or hit the wall when they are angry. Please look for another way to let out the heat. Do not puncture the wall with nails arbitrarily. Some people have posters on the wall, maybe outside. It can be very annoying when you see clean wall and someone will just put a poster on it. Some people write on the walls, especially children. Please get writing boards for our children so that they can write on them. This will help. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Property Doctor. We have too many problems facing us in the world today and in Nigeria in particular. It will be sad, so sad, to keep adding building collapse to these problems. What can cause the collapse of a building or a structure or just frames? We keep talking about this and it's like we're not getting it right, but I believe we'll get it right someday. We have witnessed different buildings collapsed in the past. You know, we read it in the news. We had ideas and some of them are so painful. Even a fence collapsed. I understand that the fence that collapsed killed people. I don't know how far that is true, but come to think of it, even a fence. But what can cause the collapse of this fence? Failure can start from any part of the building production. I mean, from the soil stage, the design stage, the workmanship, the poor quality. So many things can cause a building to fail. So when you look at a building and you say the building has collapsed from the foundation, there are so many problems that can occur at the foundation. The type of foundation, the type of materials used at the foundation. You need to check whether the soil has some components that can affect the materials you're using for construction. They know how to use the materials, like the cement you want to use, the concrete you want to use. You need to know whether there's sulfur. You need to know all those chemicals in the soil. You need to know if that place was a refuse dump before. You need a structural engineer. What kind of reinforcement was used at the foundation? When we talk about failure, it's actually very scary to read the news or hear or even see that a building has collapsed. When this happens, or anytime you see a building collapsed, many people have something to say. But I believe we should be proactive and do something immediately to prevent another one from occurring. When a building collapses, many things could have caused the buildings to fail and eventually collapse. Buildings should be taken seriously, and measures to keep them safe is very important and should be adhered to. Building collapse can affect everyone. I mean, everyone concerned in the building, like the workers in the building. That is, if the building collapsed during construction, the government needs to do something. The government needs to give the local government more authority to do periodic checks on the buildings. That means you're trying to bring down the checks, bring down the authorities to check the buildings under their vicinity or their control. A visible developmental project plan is important and should be done. During construction, the necessary bodies should check the buildings very well. They should check the building, check the beams, the structural elements, different things they need to check to make sure that the building is. The rains are here. Excess rainfall can cause flooding, and this can become a natural disaster if it is not managed properly. Although here in Nigeria we do not have other natural disasters such as earthquakes, hurricane, tornadoes, and so on. Thank God for that. But we need to manage our rainfall, because excess rainfall can cause flooding, which simply means the covering of or submerging of the normally dry land with a large amount of water. Well, today I'm talking about rain-induced flooding. This is the flooding that is caused by excessive rainfall, like I mentioned earlier. So, causes of this flooding is something that we take for granted. This flooding occurs mostly because when the rain falls, it does not have a proper channel and place to empty itself. It remains on the land surface and does not move away from there. Sometimes it flows within a great speed or velocity, and water that has not been planned to move out properly or to evacuate itself properly will end up creating its own path of movement and can move anything on its path. You know, talking about this excessive rainfall is not something that we should take for granted. We should do something. So the things that I think we should do is create a channel for the flow of excess water on the surface. We need to prepare the roads properly so that it can have a gentle slope. Another thing we need to do is to prepare for drainage. This involves the method of construction of the drainage system. Now, when you have prepared your drainage, you need to dispose your trash effectively and properly. Don't block your drains with trash.